Gio, let's go check out the Italian club.
I appreciate it. Welcome to Ybor City. Let's go for a walk.
Episode 2.
Episode 2.
Guys, we're not actually we're not stopping right now. We're continuing. It's just to have an unofficial break between the 2 episodes. But if you have to go, we understand if you've got to go. But we're not going anywhere. We've got another at least hour together, and we're gonna go see the Italian club. We're gonna go see a cigar roller, and check that out. Maybe grab a coffee there, and who knows? Maybe we'll even stop into a pirate saloon. We're gonna see what happens.
We never know.
Michaela says thanks, goodbye. And then says, welcome back. Hi again.
So when we were at Santa Stefano for lunch, they talked about La Naviera coffee, and this was their brewing facility right here. And for many, many years, all my childhood, as a matter of fact, whenever you came down here, you could smell the coffee beans roasting. You could smell the coffee beans roasting, and I think you remember Michael saying that he missed that, and they're trying to come back with a way to do it. And there's already rumors as to what they're planning on doing with that building, but I'll let them drop that little nugget on you later instead of me.
Well, it's a little weird because we've been hanging out eating for the last couple hours, and yet here we are at the beginning of an episode.
Yes.
Which is kind of the continuation of the first episode. But I wanted to say, I took your advice from the other day, and I went to the La Union Italiana cemetery.
Yes.
And I went and checked it out, and it was incredibly impressive. And I'm
thank you.
I'm so glad for that recommendation. I really enjoyed it.
Well, they're dying to get in there.
Oh, but I'm bummed.
Well, my family's been being buried in that cemetery since 1905. The Italian club, we purchased that property in the late 1890s. And actually it's very interesting history of that. The cemetery was owned prior to us by the Armwood family, and Blanche Armwood was the matriarch of that family, and she was actually born to slave parents in South Carolina and came to Florida and became the first female attorney in the state of Florida, and was a huge owner of property, and died a very, very wealthy woman. And her family is still very prominent here in the Tampa area, and she actually has a high school named after her. Once I found more about her, she actually became my hero. I'll tell you the truth about that.
Just really quick, I'm just going to do a quick mic adjust. Sorry guys.
That's okay.
Just getting that pinned in there. And Shannon, yeah, that's okay. Great. Shannon is one of our unofficial but very soon official moderators.
Excellent.
And she's always really, really proactive and helpful to let us know if the mics are how it was. And so we were just changing the levels really quick, and now she says it's perfect. So
excellent. I appreciate that.
So
let's talk a little bit about 7th Avenue itself. So this is obviously very kind of almost Bourbon Street-ish.
Correct. So it's funny how it's taken a turn now, and these have become different retail spaces. But this location here, which is now a nightclub, actually was a bakery owned by my family up until the 50s, called the Liberty Bakery, which is right here, and people today will still tell you they remember the Liberty Bakery being right here at this location.
So this is home to a lot of celebrations throughout the year.
Yes.
Of course, we didn't have many of them this year, but they do a night parade, they do a Guavaween, which is a Tampa.
Yeah,
Guavaween.
It takes a little while to get used to, but the camera doesn't have a mic on it, so it's only the mic that's mic'd right now.
We do a day and night parade for Gasparilla. All in all, there's about 9 parades that go on annually down 7th Avenue and around the Tampa area.
Gio, you weren't here before when we were talking about mic stuff, just so you know. About 2 meters away or 2 yards away from where we are, it starts to dampen. So even when those loud trucks come by and whatnot, our natural tendency is to want to shout louder to be louder. We don't need to be.
Excellent.
And a little feedback again from Shannon. Thank you that when we're getting our voices up, we're starting to get some distortion.
Okay, I'll be cognizant of that.
Yeah, but it's awesome. Like, we're just doing this on the fly. Like, we have met for a little bit of time once before, and here we are making it happen, which is just a testament to how awesome we are.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So this building here used to be the Buckman department store, and any of the residents here in Tampa would come and buy whatever goods they need clothing-wise. We're talking the 20s and 30s when Ybor was its heyday. Back then we had a streetcar that came down 7th Avenue, which was taken out many years ago, and they've actually reinstalled a version of the streetcar a block over.
He did ride on that this week.
Excellent. So that streetcar now runs to downtown.
A little bit less. You're a big man. You give me a lot of volume.
Okay. It now travels through downtown and comes back around through Channelside, and that's always how it's been historically, coming through 7th Avenue. So as we go through, you'll see all of these buildings are mostly 2 stories, and the reason is people would live above their businesses back in the day, and you have all kinds of different businesses down here, from clothing stores to not just the cigar stores, but we'd have a fish store, a butcher, all kind of things you would need down here, including even a law firm and what have you, on 7th Avenue.
Shift this down there.
Okay, is that better?
Shannon, I've moved it down on his lapel a bit. Tell me how that works out for us, okay?
I'm Sicilian and big, so my voice naturally carries.
Brother,
I'll do my best.
You and me both. We both have big voices. So.
That's it. So here's our world famous chickens.
Hunting termites.
Hunting termites, that's exactly right. Chickens and roosters know that they run Ybor City, and they'll stand right in front of your car for hours.
I didn't mean to chase them around. Sorry.
They know they're in charge, don't worry.
Okay.
I think they test the cars every now and then.
So it's a shame to see this landmark
Well,
change.
the Tropicana was historically a restaurant open for many years. It is now going to be a new tenant there. It will not be under the umbrella of La Tropicana. However, it is nice to know that the restaurant is once again open. This was Agliano Fish Market when I was a kid. You get your seafood right here, yes, and now it's a little convenience store. So I like to see all the different kind of businesses come back. One thing we try to keep down here is mom and pop mindset, and as a rule, stay away from a national chain. We have a few national chains down here, but we do try to keep it, you know, mom and pop would be the best way to describe it, what we keep here.
So it doesn't get the gentrification.
Exactly. So on our right here, we'll see Carmine's Restaurant, and that's been here forever. The Ivorone family, you said you eat at Malio's often.
Yeah.
So they've been here for many years.
We'll be there tonight.
As well as Gasper's Grotto, which has been here. The owner, Sherry and Eric, they bought this in the late 90s, and they're one of the longest standing facilities that stayed exactly the same since they purchased it. Other people have changed hands on what they've done, but Gaspar's has stayed the same.
Their next generation's what
Yes.
they do now, yeah.
Should we go in and show them the pirate stuff inside real quick, or should we get moving? We'll
If-
do that later on.
It's up to you. I have the club open for a little while now, so maybe it's better to come back here.
Yeah, we'll come, but we'll circle
Okay.
back.
Plus, if we're going to eat anything there.
Sandman will buy you some flowers if you put them on TV.
Hi there.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good.
So my daughter's graduation party was here.
Excellent. So as we come up on a building that I'm very partial to, this is the second building of the Italian Club. If you look to your right where that building stands there, we used to be there. In 1912, the first building was erected. Unfortunately, a fire in 1914 took down most of Ybor City. In 1918, we rebuilt our new building here across the street, and it has been our home ever since.
1914.
1914 is when the fire
sorry.
came through Ybor City.
Okay.
We built this building in 1918.
18. Okay.
Now,
End of World War
in the beginning of World War I. Now, what's unique about this building is, as big and magnificent as this building is, it was $80,000 to build this building.
Is that like a Mediterranean revival? What is the architecture?
Well, you know, it's a little bit of blend of everything. And if you go to all of the clubs that are still standing, you'll see a little bit of a mix of what have you. There are some aesthetics that I like of the first building better than this one, just from the outside, inside. But there are pluses I see on both. But this building is truly home to me. My office is here. My family has been in this building since before there were buildings. So in 1894, is when we actually started the idea and concept of forming the club. And in October of 1894, the actual documents were drawn up. It's a very interesting story. A gentleman who was a bookkeeper in a cigar factory heard some gentlemen at the cigar factory talking about forming a club for their people from their country and forming it. So he walked over and asked the gentleman, he said, "Do you mind if I borrow your concept and show it to my Sicilian friends?" And they said, "That would be great." So this gentleman went to a local store where one of his friends had a store, and 6 or 7 of them got together and came up with the concept of forming their own club for the Sicilians. And once they got it all together, 91 Sicilian men and 8 honorary Spanish men, those same men that formed their own club, started the charter for the Italian Club of Tampa in 1894. And just a few months later is when my family first arrived in Tampa, and in 1895, my great-great-grandfather joined the club and was a board member for the next 63 years until he died. So this building is very special to me. It's very special to a lot of people down here. And as we walk through the building, I'll give you some interesting facts of both the building, the membership, and the concept behind it. The basic premise was, much like we have HMOs and what have you now, you would join and you'd spend a couple dollars a month, depending on your family size and what have you, and you would receive medical and dental and any advice and stuff you would need, even minor surgery. We had local connections with the hospitals that were around town, and if you needed surgery, the club would be able to pay for it. We also had bereavement benefits and all kinds of things. If you had trouble, you truly could come here and get it going. And you had club and you had family. So let's walk on into our beautiful club. Let them know we're doing a quick TV show. I'll be 2 minutes. This is our museum, and it is very interesting when you come in here to see the age and dates, and I'm very happy this door was left open for us because usually it's not. This Domino's table I'm extremely partial to because we have found that it dates back into the early 50s at least. So nostalgia tells me there's a very good chance that my ancestors I never even got to meet played dominoes on this table.
I can hear the clicking.
So it just sends chills down my spine to see how many circles of dominoes went to take the color off of that Formica.
Yeah, look at that.
So we have different little things here. This is our membership ledger from 100 years ago of all the things that went on, and some of our medical tools that were here. And it just sends a chill down you to think of how old these documents are and that they're still preserved.
Oh, look at this, these bocce balls.
So I always found this to be very funny on the wall here. This is a list of what dues for medical costs were for you to have things done if you needed something done. And it talks about you needing oxygen. What's amazing to me is of all the operations they have, the first one mentioned is skull. So my question has always been kind of off color. How many heads were we operating on in the 1930s that the first thing mentioned is skull operations? So this here is our first doctor of the Italian Club. You can see at 1889. This picture was taken in 1918, which is a very, very important year for our club. And we'll talk more about that as we go up. But these are just some of the different tools that were left here. This here, if you can see, this document, I'm extremely partial to for many reasons. This is the mortgage drawn up on the building. And what sends chills down my spine is this document when it was blown up for 100th anniversary a few years ago, and I saw it, I happened to notice that lo and behold, right here is my great-great-grandfather's signature. And it was at that point I realized how integral he was, and it just inspired me to become more involved in our beautiful club. So our building was designed by Mr. Elliott. He designed most of the buildings and clubs down here like that. Here's a picture of our club in the 20s. We can tell by some of the pictures the dates because in the 30s our building had a big change in the front. This picture here on your left is Miss Norma Russo. She was the first lady of opera here in Tampa, and she helped bring opera to Tampa, and she taught opera around the country and all over. And one of her students, not here in Tampa, but as a rule her student, was Pavarotti. This shows a picture of our theater, and we'll go upstairs and show you the theater, how it looks now. But this is when we had the bleachers and seats in there. And I always joke, knowing my great-grandparents and their size, I don't know how they fit in those little chairs, but somehow they managed, as we would have said, to get their funda in the chair.
Is that their butts?
Yes.
Okay.
What was the gambling game? Did you guys talk about that?
The bolita?
Yes.
Well, everyone played bolita, and it was illegal until the state of Florida took it over and called it cash 3. But basically what bolita was is everyone would pick a number, the balls would go into a bag, the number was pulled out, and that's who won. Everyone played it down here, and it really was considered a non-victim crime, but some people wanted to stop it and what have you. These are very interesting pictures of the cemetery that you went to.
Oh, yeah.
And our transformation over the years.
These guys came with me, many of them. I did a live stream from there.
Excellent.
To show people it. So I'd say there's a fair number of people that would have seen the cemetery video.
That's awesome. Well, the cemetery, like I said, my first family member was born there, buried there in 1905.
Dasamiejo says, thank you so much, but I've been with you guys since the start, 2 hours now. They're going to step off, but watch the rest of us later on.
Well, I appreciate them. I appreciate them paying attention.
Yeah,
You can get skull operation.
We were just talking about that.
And in fact, if people could comment a couple times on Facebook, sitting on my screen right now is just Shannon's last comment, $50 for rectum.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that moving off my screen. Thank you very much, Shannon.
So I'm going to try and be as quiet as a Sicilian man can, because we actually have an Italian class going on in our cantina right now. So this cantina was off limit to women until the 50s. It was men only, which many things were back then. And it's funny how people think of it differently. Back then, I'm certain the women were glad to get rid of their men for several hours a day. This is our wall of honor of all of our members that have served in the military over the years, and you'll see some of these pictures are extremely old, and some of them are very recent from members that are currently now serving, and we thank all veterans for their service.
Oh, I appreciate that. I know that my cousin Chris Musho is serving in the Navy right now. Said hello from Hawaii earlier on, where he's stationed at Pearl Harbor.
Well, we really appreciate that, and our club has very big ties to the history of the military. And that's one of the reasons we did not celebrate our club when it first opened in 1918. So this cantina, its original floors, we still use it today for many activities, for social events, for happy hours. When people do a wedding, they'll come down here and they can have their cocktail hour and what have you. And we actually have some plans right now to put some other envelopments in here to help bring more activity into our club. There's a few pictures on the wall I wanted to zoom in on if you didn't mind.
Sure.
And we can talk about all of them as we see them, and then we'll go upstairs and show you the updated version of them. On our far left is a very funny picture, and we'll tell a story about it later. The picture's not funny, but we'll tell a funny story about it. This is our third floor ballroom around 1924, when our membership was 100% men, and these are all prominent men to the club enjoying a member's promotion. And if you look at the decorations of the walls, you can tell that it was all men in the club, because there's no color in the building whatsoever. It's all white walls and plain wood floor. No attention to detail whatsoever, but it's still very nice that they had that. Here is one of our membership campaigns at a picnic, which we just reenacted 2 years ago at the same park here in Tampa. We started doing our picnics again. And this is the 1924 membership campaign. And it sends chills down my spine to know that I have several members of my family in that picture from almost 100 years ago now, 97 as a matter of fact. As we come down here, you'll see a picture of our beloved building in the 30s. And before I see the date on the picture, I know it's from the 30s because in the front of the building is a sign called the Broadway Theater. 7th Avenue, which is where we are, was called Broadway, and actually now when you cross 50th Street, it's called Broadway again. The Broadway Theater, we used our second floor to rent out, and people could come watch movies. And at the time of this, in the 30s, there were 2 theaters in Ybor City. Understand that in this time frame, people from Ybor City did not leave Ybor City as a rule. Everything we did, shopped, bought clothes, entertainment, everything was done right here in Ybor City. So we had 2 movie theaters. We had ours and we had the Ritz. Now what I was told was our theater was 9 cents to watch a show, or you could go to the Ritz for 14 cents. So many people came here because it was cheaper and they still had the 6 cents left over, which I have found at that time you could buy 2 devil crabs and a soda for 6 cents. Oh. I'd like to know where that is now because devil crabs are about 10 bucks now.
Yeah, right?
So yes, of course.
First, for the ball, would it be a ball without women, or women would be at the ball as well?
The women were absolutely allowed at the ball.
And what about membership today? Can women join membership?
Anyone can join now. You do not have to be of Italian heritage at all. Anybody that's welcome to join, and I would love to give some information and a link for our page. I'll be glad to sponsor anyone that would like to join, and I'll give any questions they can. I'm also the chair of the membership committee for the board.
There's actually a link in the description of this video already, both on YouTube and Facebook, to your website, so that way they can...
Excellent. I appreciate that.
By all means, I'd love for you to speak about membership.
I will. As I interrupt this lovely group over here, we have one of our Italian language classes. We are broadcasting live around the entire world, and they're doing a tour of Ybor City. We've done Italian classes here in the club for many, many years. This must be your advanced class. Oh, look at this.
This is why they are allowed to drink wine.
We know it's advanced because there's wine.
Yes.
So we won't interrupt you guys. I just want to show them a few more signs before we leave. If you can see this picture, this is 1912 on our corner out here before there was any building. And if you see all the cars loaded up with people, they were on their way to a picnic. And there's 20 people in all those cars. Because we're Sicilian and we find a way.
Getting those little seats.
And if you look off to your left, Chris, you'll see a picture of the cantina in the 20s, which, as we talked about before, women were not allowed in the bar area. However, clearly children were.
It's such a cool photo because you can really see that the exposure time was long, and some of the people look almost like ghosts. They almost look like ghosts because they were moving around. Just
exactly. What I like is the gentleman in the front with his son. He's out of the house and he took the son with him. The wife's home having a glass of wine, enjoying her time off. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I think it's so cool that 100 plus years ago, Italian or Sicilian immigrants coming to the U.S. would learn English here.
Yes.
But now people learn Italian.
So our library next door, which I'll show you when we go over there where the library was, and I don't know how many here know this, but we were actually funded by the King of Italy to teach anyone, Italian or not, who wanted to learn to read, write, or speak English. We provided that service free to the community, paid for by the King of England. And as I tell people, we're talking about 1918, 1920. Think about the immigrants that were here and think about the people that were born here. In the African-American community, if you were 60 years old, you didn't go to school by then. But you could come here and learn for free to read and write. The Spanish came here, the Cubans came here. Everyone that wanted to come here came to our library, 100% free, and learned how to read and write. And now, like you said, we've come full circle. Now
Continue their class.
thank you very much. Thank you. I'm glad to see you all.
From Italy right now.
Buonasera a tutti. Ciao. Ci manca Italia tantissimo. Madonna mia, non vediamo l'ora di ritornare personalmente a Roma.
Grazie mille.
Thank you all very much.
I clearly need to come and join for Italian lessons myself, I think.
Well, we will get you taken care of. So I think we've tested a signal. If you don't mind, can we ride up and walk down?
Why don't I?
It's a long run.
That's fine. I'm
Okay.
good.
You need to take this with
I
you?
live on the 6th floor most times without a.
So we're going to ride up and I'll meet you up there.
Sounds good. I'll see you guys up at the top.
Ride with me?
Yeah.
I'll pay the gas fare.
You guys take the elevator. I got this one. All right, guys. Hey, guys. I got the mic. I'm going up the stairs, and then we're going to walk down. So, look, if there's anything you want to tell me privately without them around, now's the time. Now's the time to tell me. You guys are doing a great job, by the way, on questions. I'm getting everything real fast. It's all coming into the phone. I'm just not interrupting them when they're kind of in the middle of their chats. Wow, these are a lot of stairs. This is a really cool building. Holy cow. I really feel that cannoli right now. Oh my God. You know, if I have a heart attack at one point on a live stream, I'm not acting, okay? So make sure you call somebody. Whew. All right. I beat them up here so fast. Oh, they're here. Oh yeah. 10, that's the 6th floor right there for you. Okay, may I pass the...
All right, so I'm an old man, so we had to take the elevator up. Plus, I'm a gentleman, so I had to bring the lady along.
There you go, I really appreciate you doing that.
Ballroom. These floors I love. They are actually original from 1918. So as we come into the grand ballroom, I'm going to give you a little history of the building that we could not freely speak about downstairs because there was the class going on. This is as much to how we could do it 100 years ago, along with the gate here to close off, which when we don't have events, we do shut off. We do many events up here, weddings. We just had a concert here not too long ago. This is our grand ballroom. Some of our patron members restored this ballroom a little over 30 years ago. When I was a kid, if you came up on this floor, there was actually no ceiling because the building was during its what we call the dark years, where membership was really low, the older generation had died off, and the younger generation had not taken much of an interest. So what was residing up here was pigeons and squirrels and what have you. So when this family came through, they put in their monies and restored the ballroom. And just recently in 1918, for our 100th anniversary, we had this all repainted and brought back to life. And you see what a difference this room is now from that picture from the 20s when just men influenced and everything was plain white and plain wood floors, and now how gorgeous it is. This carpet is actually custom made, and it's meant to accentuate all of the colors of the ceiling and what have you. And I think it's absolutely gorgeous and breathtaking. So when our club opened across the street in 1912, we had over 4,000 members and families partying in Ybor City for almost a full week, celebrating our beautiful building. When we opened this building in 1918, there was no party at all. And the reason we didn't have any party, well, there was a lot of things going on in 1918. One of them was the Spanish flu, and no matter where you're watching this now, we've been through something similar to that, except for, let's talk about 100 years ago, the medical care that was provided then. And our president at the time, Mr. Philip Licata, also contracted the Spanish flu. Interesting fact about the Spanish flu, the only reason it's called that is because the King of Spain contracted it. And that's why it became called the Spanish flu. And people were dying in Tampa faster than they could build caskets. We were also at World War I, and the USS Tampa was sunk off the coast of England. And on that boat, there was a half a dozen young men from Ybor City. And one of them was a young man who changed his name to Jimmy Ross to be more Anglican and lied about his age to be able to go to war and fight for his country. Well, when this ship was sunk and people are dying on the streets, the board came together and said, we cannot have a celebration of any sort with our children dying at war right now. So we'll hold off the celebration for now. And as best as we can recollect, the building was actually celebrated in 2018 at our 100th anniversary. What was so unique about that is on our 100th anniversary, we partied all year long with all kinds of celebrations, and we went through a major renovation here at the building. And then just the next year was our club's 125th anniversary as an organization. So we had a full 2 years of partying, and then we said, wow, we really need a break. And unfortunately, 2020 hit, and we got a real big break. But now things are getting back to normal. We just had our first major concert event here at the club, which we're still doing COVID safe. So we actually broke it up over 2 nights. And we're very safe in the building. The only reason I'm not wearing a mask at this time is because there's only 2 other people walking with me who are both staying distance and both have masks on, and we've all had our vaccinations, so everyone's okay.
It's true, we've all had our first shots,
right?
Have you done 2 already, or just 1?
The Johnson & Johnson's a 1 shot, 1 done.
Oh, wow. Are you Johnson & Johnson as well? Yeah. Oh, okay.
So anyways, I want everyone to know we're taking it very seriously at the club. The only reason I'm not wearing a mask is so you can hear me enunciate a little bit better, and we're staying a safe distance from each other. And please, if anyone asks a question to the club, I'll do my best to answer. And if I don't have the answer to it, sure I can find it before we leave.
And Gio, please, by all means, ask questions to them as well, because they want to, you know, if you have questions for the audience, then it's great for them to be able to respond and answer.
Well, I would love to know of anyone out there who has been to Ybor City and has seen our building, and in their thoughts and their views of the buildings. As I said, there's still 3 fully functioning clubs as an entity like we are here in Ybor City, the Cuban Club and Centro Asturiano. Unfortunately, their membership is far even lower than ours. Our membership's pretty good. I'd like it to be higher. When I hear that 100 years ago we had over 4,000 members, it really strives me, and that's what forced me to get on the membership committee to really endorse
Well, the whole
building
area
up.
is morphing into a different.
Right, and shows like this help because people all over the world can join and be a part of this organization. It's a very nominal fee we have. It's tax deductible. We put them on our Facebook as best we can. For licensing of some groups to perform, it's a little bit difficult. And you know, we're a cultural center. We're not really set up for the audio video that may be required for that. You were going to say.
You're getting questions coming
Excellent.
in. What are some of the services at the club? What does the membership fee look like?
The membership fee for an individual is only $150. And
Annually, that's it?
Annually, and a family is only $200. As far as what we give in return, that's hard to answer because our fee is so small at this point. Now, I can tell you that, look, we can't talk about 2020. 2020 was a wash for everybody. But in 19, we did accounting, and we found that we spent an average of $165 per member throughout the year. So we're putting back out more than what we're getting in. So this nominal fee that we charge for membership is really more to help us preserve our beautiful building and what we do. We do an Italian festival, raise money for the city, and we do a lot of things like that. We have many scholarships that we sponsor, but obviously our membership drive is not bringing enough revenue for us to say, hey, here's something tangible to give you back in return. It's more about preserving our culture.
It also creates awareness, and then, you know, then when there's a wedding or there's
Absolutely, and a member would get a discount of the rental of the building.
Right.
So here's our beautiful cemetery that you toured yesterday, and it really means a lot that you went over there and looked at that for me.
Oh gosh, no, I'm so glad that you told me to go over and check it. One of the things that really struck us, and it really pissed us off actually, as myself and the viewers, was that there'd been vandalism.
Oh yes.
People had taken some of the heads off the statues. And there's even a rumor, we're not sure if it was true or not, that they might have broken into the mausoleum. They might have broken in and some grave robbing.
Well,
certainly the statues, we could see that some.
Right, we've had that problem. Listen, every cemetery around the world has that problem where people go in and vandalize. I don't know what it does. It inspires people to go vandalize and tear things up. I can't understand that psyche, but unfortunately, we've been a victim of it. You know, and then of course with the Italians and who was buried there, we've always had people that go in there and want to be extra snoopy, I guess is the right word, and look at who's there and what have you. So one thing we've had to change over the last couple of years is we used to have our inventory, for lack of better words, of who was in the cemetery advertised on web so you could look up. But for privacy reasons of families, we've had to change that. Because, you know, while some people's intentions may have been pure, then where it directs tends to be a little bit of a hardship.
I spoke to, I couldn't remember the gentleman's name, but I spoke to the architect of the mausoleum. And this is him right here, right?
Joe, well, you couldn't have talked to Joe because we just lost Joe last year.
Right, but exactly. I spoke to like the idea of him having been.
Oh, yes.
I couldn't remember his name.
Joe Calderoni. So Mr. Calderoni, you also saw him downstairs on our memorial here where he was a World War II soldier. Mr. Calderoni designed, he was a veteran, he designed the mausoleum here. And he also designed the new balcony on our Annex building next door, which was done about 17 years ago. And Joe was a very, 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 very big ambassador for the club for many, many years. Joe was in his mid-90s and left behind a widow, 74 years of marriage when he passed.
Joe, what is the capacity for private events for the ballroom?
On our ballroom, I believe we're, and don't quote me on this, but I think we're right about 600 people that can go in there. Again, we're trying to stay COVID safe.
Right.
But it's a little bit bigger than it looks. You know, empty rooms always are. So here is our beautiful map of Sicily. And you talked earlier in episode 1 of the ring, and you'll see the 3 corners that are represented here by the 3 corners of Sicily. And here we go, all of Sicily. Here's Mount Etna.
That's where the pistachios
That's where the pistachios came from, right?
in episode 1.
In episode 1. And if that's not important enough, then we'll go right over here and we will find
Ham.
Mizuyuso, where Gio comes from.
Aww.
A little tiny city on the side of a mountain, and it comes from the derivative of the village of Joseph in Arabic. Now, mind you, people don't know that Sicily was only under Italian rule since 1860. So we have been occupied by every ethnicity and empire that's ever been. And it was when Mussolini came in the 30s that he stopped teaching Sicilian and made Italian a formal language. This is that 24-karat picture I told you about that dates back to the old building, that's made of actual gold. And that's one of my favorite pieces of art in the building.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Very Venetian.
And
Very.
just to bring into your lapel as well.
So good story about this, ties into episode 1. We had our sausage made by the Pardo family. So I was at an event one day with Vince Pardo, who was a former president of the club. And I said, where did you get that pen from? He goes, it's yours. And he gave it to me. He never told me where he got it from. So this is the picture of Mr. Philip Licata. Mr. Licata was our first very big deal of a president. I hate to say it like he was. Our first president was the gentleman who was a bookkeeper, Bartolomeo Figolamo.
We'll see him later on.
We'll see him later, right. But Mr. Licata was here when the buildings were built, when the club really got founded. He was a board member. He was very involved politically with the city of Tampa. He was on city council. And for those that are watching locally, it's very interesting that when Mr. Licata decided he wanted to get out of politics, he told his son-in-law, you're going to take my spot in politics. His son-in-law was Nick Nucio.
Oh, yeah.
And Nick Nucio was a huge deal in Tampa history. There's a road down here named after him. He was the mayor of Tampa. He was a beloved member of our society here in Tampa. So these are pictures of our Italian Festa, which has gone on for 24 years now. And these are pictures that date back to the time of the last years. And we try to bring over folk singers from Sicily to come over here and perform. Now this is one of my favorite pictures in the club, and this hung in our boardroom for many years, and I never really paid attention to it. And then one day I happened to catch it across the room, and I see, here's a young Mr. Licata, our building in 1912 when the first club was open. And as I looked through there, I noticed a name that looked familiar to me. This young strapping gentleman right here, Lorenzo Fucarino, my great-great-grandfather, who was on the board for 63 years.
Can we get your face in
Side
there?
by
We
side.
can.
Let's
There
get
you
side
go.
by side.
We
You
get
got,
it.
whoa. You guys actually, there's something there.
Well, it's the nose. It's the nose. The nose has it. So here, of all the people we're talking about, here is Mr. Vince Pardo, who is a former president of the club. His son, Enzo, is one of the chefs where we ate at Santa Stefano on episode 1. So it's a nice tie-in to what we have done. So most of the members on this wall are past presidents or very important board members over the years. And when you get right down to the bottom, you will see our first president of the club, and the reason we have a club, Bartolomeo Filigamo, who was the bookkeeper at the cigar factory, who overheard gentlemen talking about the idea of forming a club. Were it not for him, we may not be here today. Now we'll go into our theater, which has been, of course, redone. And as you see it set up, because there's an actual function here this weekend, these used to all be bleacher seats. And as you look above you, you can see how the stadium seating was. And this floor was actually arched, and there were seats all the way down to the front. And the idea would happen is, as we showed the cantina before, let's say there was going to be an opera on a Saturday night. Everybody would come down here. The men would hang out in the cantina and talk, have a cigar, play dominoes, what have you, and the women would congregate in the lobby before the show started. On the third floor, there would be a music band playing music for the kids, Frank Sinatra-ish. And the whole family was able to participate here while the mom and dad would sit here and watch an opera or a play of some sort.
Really was so forward thinking between the medical care.
It really was. And you know, of course, growing up, I heard opera all the time in my home, and I love opera now. And I learned that over the years, you've all seen the mask of comedy and tragedy. And I learned later on that all of the comedies were in Latin, and all of the dramas are in Italian. And the idea was the aristocrats thought that they were above everyone else, and only they spoke Italian. Everybody spoke Latin because of the Catholic Church. So comedies were for the common folk. So the aristocrats believed that they were the only ones sophisticated enough to understand a drama. So that's why even today, if a drama is done, it's done in Italian, and Latin is where the comedies are. So there's a little useless little bit of trivia for you. As you look up here, you can see where our balcony is. That's all storage now, but that was a balcony for many, many years. And you were talking before about forward thinking. Understand that when the club started getting lean, remember, we opened in the 1890s. So when the 30s came in, that founding generation was getting older. So they branched out and then started renting this as a theater for other people to come in and bring in revenue to keep the club open. And it's that thinking.
Is this where the Broadway?
This where the Broadway Theater was, the second floor. So now we've learned, while we'd love our membership to be at 4,000, membership is not what drives keeping this building open. What keeps it is tenants. So we have 2 restaurants and a cigar bar that are tenants of us now where the old library was. And then the Annex, where I'm going to take you guys, most people don't go now, there are many offices, including yours truly's, and that is how the club sustains itself now, is based off rent. We make money off of events that go on here. That's a truth. However, we pay our bills with our tenants. We'd love to have the membership base strong enough, and hopefully in time, and maybe with the support of your viewers, that will only help us.
Our viewers.
Our viewers, yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
We're a community.
We are.
If we don't help each other, no one's going to help us.
Well, that's my rule of life.
So what's in this space over there now that I know it was a lessee's originally? Is it still
Well,
play
now
or art center?
now it's just an art center. It's we use that little patio area for different events that are running out there. It's very nice on the weekends. They have an open market that people can go to and buy things. So one thing we did when we had this building remodeled a couple of years ago, we had all these windows begin to open again. And it was for many reasons. Functioning was a big one. Whenever we have a wedding here, people always want to stand in the street and get a picture. But now we've learned, wait a minute, we can open these windows. You could you could sit outside and have a view of the building. What a beautiful thing it was. Because these windows all used to open. Remember, we have to think about, again, in Europe, 100 years is nothing, but no matter where you were 100 years ago, there was no such thing as air conditioning. And everyone wore a suit and tie when they went out. So how warm were you in July?
And a hat.
And a hat.
What happened to hats?
I'm a big fan of the hats.
It killed Danbury, Connecticut, the capital of the country.
You were telling me that. I like that story. So let's take you over here into our annex. This is a part of the tour that most people do not get. But I got a little pool, so we'll take you over here. So we're actually walking into a different building. We had a hole created in the wall. This annex was built by us, and underneath this is where the library was housed. Up here were the dentist office, a doctor office, a pediatrician, and then we even did small surgeries in this room here, though obviously there's been renovations throughout the years.
Oh, that's beautiful. Ghost stories for the buildings. I know they do a ghost tour down here.
They do a ghost tour down here.
Stop, because we had several people asking before about ghost stories related to the cemetery, and I didn't ask you or jump on it. Sorry for you folks who were asking about it, but if there's a ghost story, these guys love ghost stories.
I'm sure they do. I don't ascribe to ghosts. However, I've heard stories. I've not ever heard of this part of the building being haunted. Although I can tell you that our director of our club is convinced that his office is haunted because there's cameras all over the place, and in the middle of the night his computer turns on. So he's convinced there's somebody in there. Now you said we may go to Carmine's later. There's a ghost story of Carmine's I can tell you while we're there.
If we make it.
If we make it. So let's show you the rest of these buildings. I want to show you something that's it seems to be on a tour, everyone's favorite part of the tour. But all these are different offices used. This is actually my office here.
Very nice. I like the plants.
Thank you. Oh, here we come. I'm going to take you out on the balcony. I don't want to bore people with my office, but I'll take everyone out here to the balcony, which everyone seems to love.
So do you...
Would you mind just asking the crowd, guys, how are we doing are you guys getting this signal clean? I didn't test this area. Just let me know if there's any lag. If you do get lag or distortion, just let me know and I'll move faster through a space. Thank you very much.
And we should have good signal because I have a booster in my office.
Awesome.
Prime real estate for the parties.
This is.
Yeah.
So this is my balcony. where I enjoy my espresso and cigar almost every day. This balcony was shored up just over 17 years ago by Mr. Calderoni. It's a very funny little story. My office is right here behind us, and I recently purchased a fish tank, and there was concern about the weight being on the second floor, and they talked me into getting a much smaller tank, and right after the tank is installed and the fish get put in, I come to find out that the beams for the balcony run right underneath the fish tank is, so I could have got a tank probably 3 times bigger. Although probably in hindsight, best I did not test it.
A lot of work.
But so this balcony there was actually a balcony here 100 years ago. But it was all dilapidated and changed out many years ago. So right beneath us is where the library was. But if you look down, you'll see how the streets look. And if for people who have not been to Ybor, but have been to New Orleans, you will notice a very similar feel. And that is because many of the immigrants in Ybor City also were from New Orleans and vice versa. And those architects and styles came back. And again, we're talking about a district where people lived above where they worked.
So did they come here for work, basically?
They did.
Yeah.
There was a ton of work here with the cigar factories.
Very busy today.
It is.
See it?
Well, you know, the tourism down here is very nice. And so like this building across the street, it's actually 4 units. It's been changed over the time, and now it's back to deeded that way, but this was 4 units, and 4 different people lived in those many, many years ago. It's very funny to me when people see these numbers, they think that's the year the buildings were born. I'm like, no, that's the address. And you know that because in 1910 there was no building.
There you go. That makes sense.
Or there was, but there was no building left over, I should say.
Well, I wouldn't be, I mean, the date also makes sense because the name there was not a very popular name after World War II.
After World War II it was not, but that common name.
Of course. And considering that Katz is also a German Jewish name,
Right.
You know. Then,
well, let's remember that the Adolf that's so familiar, his mother was Jewish.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
which makes him Jewish too.
yes, that's correct. So do we have any questions so far as we're walking?
Guys, don't be shy. You're more than welcome to ask more questions.
Please ask me anything you can.
I know that often the best thing is for us to ask them questions, and then they'll get going. Is this the original Coyote Ugly?
That is not the original, although that one's been there over 20 years, and the same owner owns all of them in
really?
Florida.
Good for him.
It's a young lady, and she owns 4.
Sorry about that. Make the assumption.
No, I understand. But they have one in, I know there's one in Panama City, I believe there's one in Clearwater, and the other one is somewhere in the Panhandle as well, I believe.
Bernini's had a lot of staying power. They've been here.
Bernini's opened in 1998. Jason Fernandez is the chef there. That is housed in the building that was the old Bank of Tampa. It's actually a very, very beautiful building.
It is. Yeah,
And Jason is a wonderful, wonderful man that's endured the lean times of Ybor and stuck it out.
And they got to still do their $5 martinis.
And I tell you, I like the fact that in their sauce, they also put the hard-boiled egg as well.
Nice. How's the difference in Ybor City during the day and during the night?
No pun intended, it's night and day. During the day, it is very touristy, and you have people walking down shopping and seeing things and mingling. And at night, it tends to be more of a party scene. We're evolving away from that more as time goes on. There's new developments being built down here and trying to bring more residential down here. One of the words that's being used by the developers down here is we're looking for more homesteaded properties because we think it's important to have ownership. And that's going to bring other things like chain supermarkets and what have you, because you need those for people to live down here. So we're slowly getting more back to the ideology of what Ybor should be. We don't mind the bars and we don't mind people having a good time, but we don't want it to be known as a place for drunken debauchery. We want it to be something we own and love and people can come down here and cherish. And actually, if you see the amount of people walking up and down the street, you should see it on the weekend. I mean, there's thousands of people walking down here just seeing everything.
This is that place, Long Ash. There, that's the cigar roller.
That is the cigar roller place, yes. So it's a son and mother that own the place. They've been there for I think about 12 years now, and they sell their own product only. They're one of the only ones down here that exclusively sell their own product, and they literally are rolling from the minute they open in the morning till they close at night, which is great because the tourists want to come in and see. As you can see, people down there now looking on the window, watching the people rolling the cigars.
Do you guys want to also see some cigar rolling after we leave the club? Is that where you guys would like to see some hand-rolled cigars being rolled? Let us know in the comments. Want to know?
I'd be happy to take you over there. And one thing I know about them is that the cigar rollers over there actually trained in Cuba and brought over here already as trained cigar rollers.
Wow.
So it's not just come in the job and learn. These guys know what they're doing.
Which is kind of an homage to the history as well.
That's
because
exactly right.
The first cigar rollers in Ybor City were from Cuba, likely, you know?
And they're paid by the piece just like they were 100 years ago.
Diana says yes.
Well, Diana, I'll be happy to walk you over there and show you the
says
shop.
yes. Thank you, guys. 2 more yeses, please. We're heading over there.
Excellent. Let's go on over there.
Kimberly, can I ask you to run ahead of us and just let them know that we're coming? 'Cause
I was gonna send my guy over there.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, look at you. We all got people.
Mushka.
Sorry, Kimberly, I didn't mean to ask you to run.
Oh, if she's gonna go, then okay.
She's got it. She's gone over there.
Okay, we're gonna go to Long Ash. Computer access. 2319. Yeah. Well, hopefully no one comes to get on my computer. So these are offices that are housed by different people now. And years ago, before I was in my bigger office, I was in an office back here. And I moved offices because, well, I needed a bigger spot. But then I learned later that the office I'm in now was when people had trouble, they came in that office, which was considered a consigliere's office. And that's where I'm housed now. So I specialize in helping people that have troubles. So we have different businesses. We have a roofing business now. There's a nightclub down the street. They keep an office here. And there's an attorney who is the attorney for the club, but she's also a regular attorney, and she's housed here. Like I said, those are just nice things. So we'll walk out front.
It's amazing that this is a 1918 building. You can really, you really get a feeling of what an amazing job you guys did for the renovation.
Well, it's funny you say that. And when we went through the walls and opened up things to restore, we saw that all the walls were built 3 brick wide, which of course is not how they build now.
No, things used to be really overbuilt.
But so our rule of thumb for the club is our board is committed to making sure that we're here 100 years from now. So on the right over here, there's 2 pictures I'd like you to zoom in on. One is a picture of the plaque out front that shows April 4th, 1894, when the club was actually signed into doctrine. And then our inauguration of our first building, which was in October of 1912. And remember, I told you the other one, this building cost $80,000 to build. This one was $60,000 to build.
Amazing. Thank you, Nikki and Ross, for joining. Thank you, Nikki. It means a lot what you've said there. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I know we've gone quite late, much longer than we expected. This is officially the longest direct tour we've done.
Well,
we've done it now.
We get some record.
Yeah, you definitely hit the record, and hence why there was an episode 1 and an episode 2.
Well, I'm glad to be a part of this. So if we look now, there's over here underneath that balcony we're just in, these 3 restaurants now, which actually 2 restaurants and a cigar bar. This is where the old library was so many, many years ago. And if you look at this old tile, we actually had some damage on a piece of tile, and we have gone to so many tile places around, we are having trouble replicating this tile. So this tile is, if not close to 100 years old.
Wow, amazing.
And we'll go over to Duamici, and how about we see some cigars getting made?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Or Long Ash, excuse me. So I will wear our mask because we're in someone's business.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
We weren't sure what you wanted to drink.
No, nothing for me. Bueno, ¿cómo estamos? Es un programa vivo en todo el mundo. Ahí. So these cigar rollers here work every day to roll handmade cigars.